the new lawsuit coming with Jay, the part with Jay. I go, oh shoot, like
right. To us, black excellence.
that had to be there.
We getting tighter, you know what I'm saying? And united we stand. And ain't no.
What was supposed to be the end of Diddy's legal nightmare exploded into something bigger, because out of nowhere, Jay-Z himself got pulled straight into the courtroom drama. And it all unfolded in just minutes.
I want to know why Jay-Z and Beyonce's name keep popping up around the whole Diddy thing. Well, that's why I'm here. Now, first thing you gotta know is when somebody like Diddy gets taken down, things always start out as a rumor. Diddy has had rumors floating around for like decades. Well, Jay-Z had a problem. He right there in the corner, by the way. Jay-Z has had a few rumors himself, but more like speculation. People see Jay-Z in a picture of R. Kelly, they're like, I guess they both make music. Then Jay-Z with Harvey Weinstein. People are like, I guess they both do business. Then, of course, Jay-Z with Diddy. Now, hold on. Here's the thing. Jay-Z and Diddy go way back. Like back to the days when they were both coming up. So you could say they might just have a lot of respect for each other. But on the other hand, people are like, well, if you've known each other that long, Jay-Z, you must have known what Diddy was on. But Jay-Z has always had a history of keeping quiet, which brings us to Aaliyah. Now, I'm sure y'all remember R. Kelly dated Aaliyah when she literally needed her parents' permission slip to get married. Now, if I remember correctly, her parents got the permission slip and said, marry who? And that's how this whole thing got exposed. Now, a lot of people in the industry actually knew about this relationship because they would work with R. Kelly. They would be in the studio with R. Kelly. Now, according to Dame Dash, who listened closely, was Jay-Z's first business partner and also dated Aaliyah when she was 21. He said this is how it went. He said he didn't want anything to do with R. Kelly because everyone knew what type of timing R. Kelly was on. He looks over at Jay-Z and Jay-Z's out here creating collab albums with R. Kelly. But then he saw why. For starters, everyone had a crush on Aaliyah. People were waiting down the clock until she turned 18. But Jay-Z decided to get a head start. Now, there was absolutely no proof that Jay-Z went after Aaliyah, but people were like, let me see another picture. But apparently Jay-Z wasn't successful and Dame Dash started dating her when she was 21. Now, what does this all have to do with Diddy? It's the secrets. It's the, like what happened to Diddy, making people wonder. Nas came out, well, he technically didn't come out and say this, but while he was having his legendary beef with Jay-Z, he's doing a radio interview and he's saying, it's weird that Jay-Z be working with people that need a permission slip to marry somebody, R. Kelly. But again, rumors, kind of like what was happening to Diddy. But then this lawyer comes out and says, boy, do I got some news for y'all. And here's where it starts to get wicked. Now, he's going after Diddy. Specifically, listen closely, anyone that Diddy might have done something to, or anyone who has watched Diddy do some of these things and stayed silent about it. Now, first of all, the lawyer's taking calls from anyone. So theoretically, anyone could just call trying to get some money saying Diddy did this to me, Diddy should pay me. But in the lawyer's defense, I'm sure he's looking for people with proof. Honestly, I don't know him. He could be trash. Anyway, what he said next is what got people interested. He said, and I got some names. He said some wild names. Some names that will blow your mind. He's selling this. He's saying, yo, y'all finna wild out when you hear these names. I'm not gonna say it now, but y'all finna wild out. So people are like, Now, in Beyonce's case, it's just because she's married to Jay-Z and she's been in the industry for like 20 years. People are like, you must have known something. But that's all people have. Now, in Jay-Z's defense, he's famously all about the money. As far as we've seen, he's always been around Diddy for like a public event or...
Diddy had just been declared not guilty in his federal RICO case. Months of stress, speculation, and non-stop media coverage seemed to finally end. The courtroom exhaled. His lawyers smiled. Diddy closed his eyes, relieved. It was over. Or so it seemed. Just as reporters rushed to break the news, a clerk handed the judge a sealed envelope. He opened it, scanned the contents, and his expression shifted instantly. The next words the room, a new subpoena, a new name, Jay-Z. In a jaw-dropping twist, the judge revealed that fresh evidence submitted during the trial had sparked a separate inquiry, this time involving Sean Carter himself. The courtroom froze. Seconds ago, Diddy was celebrating freedom. Now, Jay-Z's name was on the line.
Of course, regardless of whether information qualifies as exculpatory or impeachment, it must be disclosed in time for its effective use at trial. And the defense continues, moreover, because the government continues to refuse to identify who it views as a victim, also means that the government is also failing to meet its Brady and Giglio obligations with respect to any other alleged victim. Requiring Mr. Combs to follow up on all exculpatory evidence in the 6 weeks before trial is unconstitutionally burdensome. 3,500 materials should also not be produced with an attorney eyes only designation, particularly if the court adopts the government's proposal to delay disclosure of such material until March 21st, 2025. Defense counsel will need Mr. Combs' assistance to properly review the material and effectively prepare for trial. Now, finally, the parties they agree for once. They agree about the witness and exhibit list. The prosecution proposes submitting that list 3 weeks before trial, April 14th, 2025. They say earlier than that doesn't make sense because those motions in limine excluding evidence or arguments won't have been decided yet, and that will affect who or what the government will present. They say the defense can present its list by April 25th, 2025, so that's 1 week in advance of trial. The defense agrees to both. And then both the prosecution and the defense agree to April 11th as the deadline for the jury questionnaire forms. So those are sent out to prospective jurors across the jurisdiction, starts the whole jury selection process on who will be called into court for further questioning and examination. And also both sides agree to April 25th as the deadline for requests to charge or voir dire. That's the more specific process for selecting the jury, and also proposed verdict forms to be submitted. So in the end, what do you see here? You see a little gamesmanship, you see a little strategy, a little practical difficulties all at play here. Remember, it is the prosecution's burden. The defense arguably wants to trip them up, right? They don't want them to be as prepared as possible, trying to take any advantage they can. So this unidentified Jane Doe has sued both Jay-Z, Sean Carter, and Sean Diddy Combs. This is out in New York. This is out in New York federal court, to be more specific. And she is claiming that when she was just 13 years old, she was raped by both of these musicians at a Video Music Awards after party back in 2000. And now Jay-Z, who is adamantly denying the allegations, is not only trying to get the whole case dismissed and thrown out, but he is also asking the court to impose sanctions upon Jane Doe's Texas attorney, Tony Busby. Now, this may sound very familiar, by the way, because this has been an ongoing legal war between Busby and Jay-Z and his legal team. Accusations that Busby engaged in extortion, that his firm pressured a client to lie, that Jay-Z's camp has been engaging in intimidation and harassment. Jay-Z called Tony Busby a deplorable human being. He even filed a lawsuit against Tony Busby. And by the way, Jay-Z and his legal team, their position was that Busby had extorted the rapper, that Busby allegedly threatened Jay-Z during negotiations that he would go public with these claims. Jay-Z says these are false claims, but public with these claims unless Jay-Z agreed to pay what they claim is a, quote, exorbitant sum in private mediation within a 2-week period. Jay-Z says that when he refused, that is when he was named by Tony Busby in the lawsuit. Remember, this lawsuit first came out. It was only identified as unnamed celebrity A, and then in an amended complaint, Jay-Z was identified.
The judge looked like he'd seen a ghost. According to sources close to the case, Jay-Z's surprise mention came from a confidential witness who dropped a bombshell behind closed doors. That witness alleged ties between Diddy's business operations and financial dealings, claims that also implicated Carter in a wider web of corporate shell strategies. To be clear, Jay-Z hasn't been charged, but being named in court like this, it's serious. Diddy instantly lost control. Witnesses say he slammed his hands on the table, shouting, "Why are you bringing Jay into this? He has nothing to do with it." Security rushed in. Court officers tried to calm the chaos, and one of Diddy's lawyers physically held him back from approaching the bench. Cameras were rolling. Reporters caught every second. And the internet, it exploded. Before the judge's words had even sunk in, Jay-Z subpoenaed was trending worldwide. Headlines lit up, Jay-Z dragged into Diddy RICO fallout. Power duo under fire. Social media went crazy. Memes, wild theories, and non-stop speculation.
In sex work for him during his white parties from 2004 to 2009 at defendant Combs' homes in Miami, Florida, and Hampton, New York. Again, we do not know for sure if she is now a part of this criminal case, but that's where my mind went, okay? I thought about the time frame. I thought about her civil lawsuit. It's not outside the realm of possibility. So again, we don't know for sure if she's an alleged victim or a key witness in this case, the same way we don't know for sure if Cassandra Ventura is either. But, you know, we're looking between the lines. Oh, and by the way, let me just add this. Generally speaking, several lawsuits have alleged illegal conduct committed by Combs between 2004 and 2008. Okay. Now, one other thing I have to mention about this, the significance of this change, is that the original complaint had 2008 to the date of the indictment. Now it's 2004 through in or about 2024. So that signifies to me they may be talking about a criminal enterprise engaging in illegal activity even after the indictment. And that's not surprising because, as we reported here on Sidebar, Combs has been accused of breaking the Bureau of Prisons rules as he's locked up at the Metropolitan Detention Center out in Brooklyn, New York. He's been accused of using other inmates' PAC numbers, engaging in three-way phone calls, using others to try to reach out to victims and witnesses. Now, I'm not saying this is what prosecutors are referring to, but there have been allegations that he and those close to him have been engaging in alleged misconduct since his arrest and indictment. So maybe that's why you see the change in that time period. All right, so now let me move on to the next change that I noticed. And again, this is trying to broaden out, in my mind, trying to broaden out the scope of alleged illegal activity from just freak-offs. This is beyond just freak-offs. Why? Because in the superseding indictment, it says now some of the commercial sex acts were freak-offs. So you have commercial sex acts that could be illegal that don't, again, rise to the level of freak-offs. There was also another line in the superseding indictment that was new, and I want to tell you about it. It says on page 6, in connection with the commercial sex acts, Combs provided the victims with, among other things, monetary payments, career opportunities, and payment of rent and housing expenses. That is a new line. And it seems to me what they're really trying to do, prosecutors here, are trying to explain the commercial element of these acts, providing or promising something of value to coerce these people into doing this. Now, by the way, the defense will say, look, Sean Combs, if these were his girlfriends or these were his romantic partners, don't boyfriends pay for gifts? Don't they give them money if they need it? Don't they help them out? This is not sex trafficking. This is a relationship. That is what I anticipate we will hear from the defense. Okay, now we have another big change in this superseding indictment. Actually, it's a whole new paragraph. This wasn't in the original indictment. This is the new paragraph in the superseding indictment. Quote, other commercial sex acts involved only Combs and a female victim. As with freak-offs, other members and associates.
Diddy walked out of court a free man, his RICO case dismissed. But just as the verdict dropped, the judge opened a sealed envelope that changed everything. A new subpoena, a new name, Jay-Z.
Drum up clients to bring claims against Combs and against Jay-Z. And maybe the attorneys have reached some sort of understanding about the ground rules. Maybe not, but maybe they have, and letting this motion go is part of that understanding. That would be my third possible reason.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned that it's speculation, but I think by you kind of explaining that, I feel like that might also be very plausible. I want to go back to what you said during kind of your second explanation, where, I'm sure Jay-Z from his side, he probably wants this lawsuit just to be, or this complaint to be dismissed, or not even amended in the first place, made in the first place. Obviously, nothing goes away in the blink of an eye, But in your opinion, watching all of this legal back and forth that's been unfolding these past few months, do you think there is enough to dismiss, or do you think at a point this will even get litigated?
I think it's going to get litigated. If I had to guess, I haven't really studied the complaint against the motion to dismiss, so I don't have a advanced opinion about it. But my reaction to it is that the complaint accuses him of some very bad stuff, and that ought to be enough to move the case forward. That's my guess. Now, remember, at the outset of these litigations, we go through kind of a honing phase where the dispute is sort of narrowed down to certain parties and certain claims. And sometimes the motion to dismiss doesn't get rid of the case entirely, but it gets rid of some of the claims, or it gets rid of some of the parties. I see today, by way of example, there's a brand new filing dismissing defendant Bad Boy Records LLC. There were separate claims against that company, and I don't know where all these companies fit in the pantheon of Bad Boy Records, but that...
The courtroom froze. Diddy lost it, shouting, Why are you bringing Jay into this? Security had to hold him back. Within minutes, Jay-Z subpoenaed was trending. Clips of Diddy and Jay on stage went viral. The Bayhive demanded answers. The judge clarified, Jay hasn't been charged. But investigators are now digging into financial ties linked to the case. Jay's team quickly fired back. Mr. Carter has not been contacted. Any claims otherwise are false. But by then, the damage was done. The internet was already asking, how deep does this really go?
And compliance. So that is very, very similar to the description of the freak-offs. I guess what's happening here, prosecutors might be looking at their case and saying, we're going to describe these alleged illegal sexual episodes, these instances of sex trafficking, and if the term freak-off wasn't used, or it's not characteristic of a freak-off, then a jury could look at this and say, you know, prosecutors, I don't think this is a freak-off, as you described. But now broadening it to say, we're talking about generally illegal commercial sex acts that may or may not be freak-offs, that is how they're trying to win this case. That's my take, at least. And I think this is really to solidify and crystallize that sex trafficking charge. And you see the addition of commercial sex acts with the freak-offs. For instance, we see lines like this one in the superseding indictment that creates that separation. Quote, Combs subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause the victims to engage in freak-offs and other commercial sex acts. Okay, now we have another line that was changed from the original indictment. In the original indictment, it read, Combs also threatened victims' careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted participating in freak-offs. In the new indictment, it says, Combs also threatened victims' careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted engaging in sex acts with Combs and at times with Combs and male commercial sex workers. They're going beyond the specificity of freak-offs. Okay, we have another change that's pretty notable too. So both indictments, they share a paragraph where they discuss how Combs, if anyone threatened him, if anyone threatened his authority.
50 Cent wasted no time clowning. He posted a split pic of Diddy raging in court and Jay-Z looking lost, captioned, "You know it's bad when Huff gets a shout out from the bench. This movie keeps writing itself." The internet went wild. But behind the scenes, Jay-Z was blindsided. Sources say his phone blew up with calls and messages the second the news broke. He even canceled a planned Rock Nation brunch. Beyoncé, reportedly furious, dropped an IG story with nothing but the scales of justice. Fans read it as both support and warning. Then came the leaks. Sealed testimony mentioning offshore accounts, shell companies, and royalty payouts, allegedly tied to both Combs Enterprises and Rock Nation. No charges, no jury. But Jay-Z's name in court shook the industry. The DOJ is digging deep, and more moguls could fall. Diddy beat the case, but lost the narrative, dragging Jay into the fire. Hip-hop's untouchables. Not so untouchable anymore.